Hello, my name is Oladeji Williams, and I am an Under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them Under 40 CEOs.
Oladeji Williams has cognate working experience spanning over 15 years, which was spent working as a project manager in the United States of America, first at mid-management level, then management level within the Lagos state government, and consultant to various state governments in Nigeria. He is a goal-oriented policy developer, administrator, and an infrastructure developer, management and maintenance expert who is very passionate about public service and community development. It is his lifelong ambition to contribute to the continued development of Nigeria in areas of governance, business, and diplomacy. Oladeji Williams is currently the General Manager, Lagos State Infrastructure Assets Management Agency, LASIAMA.
All right, welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Deji.
Pleasure, thank you.
All right, then. So, Deji, you attended Corona Primary School and subsequently St. John's College before moving to the UK to a boarding school, I believe. Please do share about growing up in Lagos and your preteen years.
It was a very happy time. I went to, in fact, a lot of my friends are still my friends today. They were my classmates in Corona School Ikoyi. It's off McPherson in Ikoyi. And I spent 5 years there before moving on to secondary school in Ilupeju. I spent 2 years there, and then from there I moved to the UK for 5 years, then followed on to the US.
Okay, so how old were you when you left for Framlingham College, I believe?
I was 12. I was 12 years old. Yes.
Wow, so please share about your experience at Framlingham.
Well, boarding school was not new to me. I actually went to boarding school at 10 when I went to St. John's in Ilupeju. So by the time I moved to the UK, yes, there were some cultural challenges from coming from Ilupeju, but all in all, I enjoyed the experience. It was my formative years, and I still have those friends till today. In fact, recently I went for a 20-year reunion, and I caught up with those friends, and it's been fantastic. So we are still on WhatsApp groups and everything else, and we still, that friendship and that bond is everlasting.
Amazing. So those cultural differences you mentioned, did that influence your choice of course of study? I mean, you studied international business and global issues. Yeah.
Well, the reason I went into pursue that degree was a long time ago. While I was at Corona, there was a quote by Sir Henry Wotton, and it stuck with me, that a diplomat is an honest man who lies for the sake of his country. Growing up, because I come from a family of lawyers, they always said lawyers were liars. And that stuck with me. And so that is something that I carried and I still carry today. So I always thought I would represent Nigeria in one way or the other.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
A gentleman who describes himself as fiercely patriotic chose to move back to Nigeria after his studies, even though it was not a popular choice amongst his peers at the time.
So talking about representing Nigeria, at what point did you decide it was time to move back to Nigeria?
I always knew I would move back to Nigeria. I wanted to get a rounded education, and I always felt that getting an education wasn't just the pursuit of a degree. It was getting a rounded experience, friends, and also sharing cultures and different ways of life. And I was exposed to all sorts. And I'm very thankful for that. So I always knew that I would bring all those things back as a global citizen and try and have some sort of impact in my community in Nigeria.
All right, so before leaving, I believe you attended University of Franklin, right?
Yes, yes.
Before leaving that town or the United States, did you work in the private sector? Or?
Yes, I did. Yes. I worked for sports sites. I always thought I would either be a diplomat or a professional athlete. So when the latter didn't happen due to a series of injuries and clearly I wasn't good enough to be a professional athlete, I worked within the professional field. So I worked for Sportsight, which was responsible almost like a sports agency. And so we dealt with international clients all over the world, NFL players, NBA players, and all sorts. And I handled a lot of business development there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, amazing. So upon returning to Nigeria, the only record we have of you working in the private sector is as CEO of More Wheels?
Not just that, actually. I did my NYC at MultiChoice.
Ah, beautiful.
And so I did that, and I started More Wheels even before I began my NYC. So it was a real estate company, and I was fortunate enough to do a lot of real estate investments from some of the money I'd saved from the US. And I also went into advertising. I was on the board of a company called 21 Media. And we did a lot of out-of-home media in Nigeria and in Liberia.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Prior to his current appointment, Deji was Special Assistant to the Governor of Lagos State on Energy, a role he was also appointed to by His Excellency in September of 2015. However, he joined the public service before then.
So at what point did you know it was time to join the public sector?
I had always been very interested in the public sector since I was young, since I was a small boy. So it was something I always paid attention to. Every time I came back home, I would always pay attention, international politics and domestic affairs in Nigeria. So the opportunity came when I would go for various political rallies and just listen and attend meetings, and I was already getting myself involved in the Dolphin Estate Association at the time. And I think I was the youngest ever elected General Secretary of the Dolphin Estate Association. And so it was through those relationships and constantly people complaining about the public arena, and I just felt, well, maybe I'll dedicate some years of my life to service. And so the opportunity came up, and it was advertising based, and I was trying to recommend ways of using advertising as a PPP to invest in infrastructure from the revenues generated from advertising.
That's amazing. So which of the agencies did you first join?
The agency was the Lagos State Signage and Advertisement Agency, otherwise known as LASA.
Okay.
And I was one of the pioneer staff there.
Oh, really?
And we did a tremendous amount of work and generated a lot of revenue for the state government and created some sanity in the outdoor signage industry at the time.
All right. We feel like that agency is quite troublesome. A lot of trouble in Lagos.
I wouldn't say troublesome. I would say just if you play by the rules, then you can benefit.
All right. So, and then you moved on to yet another role in the public sector.
Yes. Years later, I ended up becoming and being appointed in this administration as the Special Assistant to the Governor on Energy. Okay. I also have an energy background, and I was involved in energy for a number of years before I got appointed to this position as the General Manager of Lagos State Infrastructure Asset Management Agency.
What informed the transition from advertising that's from LASA to energy? I mean,
well, in LASA, we were not just a pioneering agency. We were pioneering a lot of PPPs regarding infrastructure. And a think tank was set up not just within people or personnel within LASA, but also with the state government. And we were actively involved in street lighting because of the advertisements that we put on those lamp poles were now plowed into the maintenance and management of those street lamp poles. On top of that, that's now evolved into finding holistic solutions for energy. We developed an alternative energy platform, which was generators at first. That we needed something a bit more sustainable. And that's when we started experimenting with independent power. And that is where the real learnings of the inner workings and the value chain of energy began. And that's when we successfully, as a state government, implemented and installed 5 independent power plants that power government facilities, including streetlights.
All right, so why just government facilities?
By regulation, government is allowed to power itself. Fortunately for us, in this administration, there's the embedded power law, which is the Lagos State Energy Law that was passed, the bill that was passed by the House of Assembly, which allows the state government now to go a step further. Now that we've developed the capacity to power ourselves, how do we power homes and businesses, and it allows the private sector to partner with the state government in ensuring that we can have energy security in Lagos.
All right, so is that the same project you called Light Up Lagos?
Absolutely. Light Up Lagos is in 3 components.
Okay.
It's the street lighting component, it is the rural electrification component. In the rural electrification, what we were able to do was connect 64 communities in the Bejuleki axis to the national grid. They had not been connected in over 13 years. Additionally, on the Badagry-Seme border, we were able to connect, I think, about 32 communities to the national grid as well, and they hadn't been connected in about 20 plus years. So that was a huge achievement for this administration. And then lastly, embedded power, and that is now ensuring that the entire value chain of energy, which comes from generation, distribution, transmission, and obviously consumption into the value chain, and ensuring that the people of Lagos State can have their own power ring-fenced for Lagos by Lagos.
Amazing. So tell me, what is your mandate at Lagos State Infrastructure Assets Management Agency?
Well, we're responsible for the management and maintenance of physical assets belonging to the state government. Predominantly, these physical assets are buildings. So we maintain buildings, facility management of the buildings, and create holistic plans to maintain these buildings. And so we birthed an initiative called Maintenance Culture, which is now advocating maintenance culture within the metropolis and outside of the metropolis to manage all our assets. And they come in about 3 components as well. They come in an enumeration of all our public assets. The Lagos State government has over 3,000 buildings. Wow. And so we need to have a holistic way of managing and maintaining these buildings. So we enumerate all of them and use a technological platform using a software, which is an asset enterprise management software, to be able to holistically maintain and manage all these assets. And also furthermore advocating and creating jobs through the value chain of facility management and maintenance.
All right, so how effective has this platform been?
We feel it has been very successful. We have been able to do a significant amount with our general hospitals in Lagos State, with some of our public schools, our courts. All our courts have been maintained and managed by facility managers. And we have strict service level agreements in place to ensure that they meet those agreements, and if not, penalties can be put in place. I'll probably say the most challenging thing about it is energy. Energy is probably about 35 to 40% of the expenditure of maintaining and managing facilities.
Talking about challenges, what are those key challenges that you've had to, face and overcome to make the strides that you've made so far, one? And then secondly, what are those challenges that you faced moving from private to public sector?
My father's younger sister was a permanent secretary and also a member of cabinet in this government. I have always known that the challenges of the public sector and how to relate to the public sector. What people don't understand is there are 3 tiers when dealing with the public sector. You have to be politically minded, you have to be a technocrat and be an expert in your field, and more importantly, you have to have an appreciation and an understanding and experience in the bureaucracies of the system. If you can mar those and you're dexterous enough to manage those 3 things, then it will not be seamless, but you'll be a lot more effective and efficient in pushing the agenda of what you're trying to achieve for the administration.
All right, and the second one, the strides you've made so far?
The strides we've made so far is that we've developed a template for maintaining and managing facilities. We're doing the asset enumeration and backing it with technology. I think once you can back your enumeration and management with the tools of technology, it makes it a lot more effective and efficient in managing your assets.
All right, so the question actually was, what are the challenges that you faced in making the strides because I know for sure that you may have faced resistance, you may have faced, so what are those challenges you faced in implementing all of these changes for you to even be able to?
I think there were a lot of cultural challenges, orientation challenges. But I think at the end of the day, even within this system, everybody is committed to a greater Lagos. It's a matter of making sure you're speaking the same language and communicating and letting there be trust. I found that the civil service has developed a bad reputation of people that don't want to work or are not committed, but I found that to be the opposite. I found a lot of highly skilled, well-educated, and people that share the same orientation and believe in a greater Lagos. And a byproduct of that is a greater Nigeria. So I believe we just need to communicate adequately. But certainly in the civil service, I've been blessed to work with true professionals.
Talking about culture, how has travel and interacting with different cultures added value to your person?
I would say that because I've lived in 3 different continents, everybody wants courtesy and everyone wants to be treated and given the opportunity to have personal dignity. Once you do that, they will always be cooperative and communication is key. I've found no difference in working in the private and public sector. Yes, there's some challenges and there's still room for capacity building, but I assure you, this state government has invested heavily in upskilling its personnel in the public sector.
So talking about human resource, this is a key element to consider, when building any enterprise. I know you must have inherited some people when you came on board as general manager, but how do you typically hire?
In the case of this agency, the state government is blessed with accredited and certified personnel in the fields of engineering. Because we're predominantly an engineering-based agency, we're fortunate that a lot of them are current registered or registered within the various associations and professional bodies within the value chain of construction, engineering and everything. So whether that is electrical, mechanical or civil engineers, the state government has an array of those talented individuals. And so we are under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, that's our parent ministry, and a lot of our people come from the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure.
Okay, amazing. So please do tell me about your leadership style.
I would like to think I'm a Democrat. I think communication is key. When it comes to the public sector, sometimes it can be a bit autocratic, but that's not my nature and that's most certainly not my style. I think you'll have to ask my staff, but I would say I'm a very democratic, open-door policy leader. I'm here to serve and work with people.
What are your failings as a leader?
Not to sound conceited, but I don't think I have necessarily failed as a leader. I think the agency has been able to achieve a lot because of the personnel within the agency and the environment that we've built together. We do not have anything that I feel as is failing. I think there's a lot we can achieve and there's a lot more we can do. And we will certainly be looking at using public-private partnerships to be able to achieve more in terms of stretching resources and being able to have access to more resources to be able to maintain a wider scope of our public buildings and other infrastructure assets.
Okay, so please share with me, how important is delegation to you?
I think delegation is key. When you're managing an agency or when you're involved in anything within the public sector, you're usually doing it on a large scale and you have to trust your team. And I've been fortunate and blessed with an exceptional team and they share the same orientation as I do. And because of that, delegation has never been a problem. Like I said earlier, we really are blessed with highly skilled personnel in the engineering field. And so having them manage tasks has never been an issue.
What are those key skill sets that a CEO needs to acquire in managing people?
I would say communication is one, if not the most important, empathy, and be a people person. I've always prided myself in being humble and a people person. And I think if people truly believe that you can lead from the front, there's nothing you would assign them to do that you are not capable or willing to do yourself, I think they'll follow you into the trenches and cross the front lines with you.
So tell me, what values are important to you and your firm?
The values come from my upbringing, and it would be integrity first, fear of God first, integrity second, and being transparent. If your people believe and you can develop an organizational culture of one for all and all for one, then you should not have too many challenges within the organization anyway.
All right. So tell me, what is the biggest letdown you've experienced in public service thus far?
I think at times politics can get in the way of the bigger picture. At the end of the day, people should not lose focus from the fact that Lagos and Nigeria is a country blessed with resources, but there's still no energy. We still require clean water. Child mortality rates are still high. So away from all the petty bickering, we must put the people first. And that's why they give you the mandate in the first place.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
With values including integrity and transparency, Deji believes empathy and effective communication are key attributes of a great leader. Will Deji be willing to transparently communicate to us his lifestyle choices? Soon we find out.
So I have a few quick-fire questions for you.
Shoots. I'll see if I can get them.
What do you love to eat?
Egusi.
What are your favorite brands to wear?
I'm not into brands.
Which CEOs do you look up to?
In the private sector, I would say Oprah Winfrey. But above that, the most impressive CEO I know, who is also a member of the 40 Under 40, is Deji Williams, CEO of Nakinos. I really look up to her, and she so happens to be my wife as well.
Amazing.
In the public sector, however, I look up to His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode. I look up to Professor Yemi Osinbajo. I look up to Obama. I look up to Mandela in the public sector.
What's your favorite car to drive?
I'm not into cars, I'm sorry.
All right. What's your favorite travel destination?
The destination that blew me away the most was Singapore.
What's your favorite book of all time?
Long Walk Through Freedom, Nelson Mandela.
What book are you reading right now?
I'm reading Children of Blood and Bones. It's a bestseller by a Nigerian author based in the US.
So lastly, I'd like to know, Deji, what makes you happy?
Family, friends, serving the public. I think there's a lot of it enriches the soul, and sports. I am addicted to competition and sports. So I turn everything into a competition.
All right. Thank you for coming on Under 40 CEOs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Hello. My name is Oladeji Williams, and you too can be an Under 40 CEO.
This is Under 40 CEOs.